values to valued culture. Here is your host, Will Scott, interviewing another CEO about leading culture in their company.
Welcome everybody to another Culture Czars interview where we interview CEOs that care about their corporate culture. As you know, we encourage companies to not just have core values, but to truly have a valued culture. And we've got a series of steps that we like to go through for that, and you'll hear about some steps that Mike has taken today. And in fact, I'd like to introduce Mike. He's definitely a Culture Czar. And Mike, tell us a little bit about Vircom.
Hi, and thanks for having me. I wouldn't go as far as calling me a culture czar. I'd say we care a lot about culture, so a person who cares about culture. Vircom is really all about bringing together motivated technologists to solve the complex problem of protecting business email for customers all over the world. And protecting it against viruses, against phishing attempts, against ransomware. Email is the number one vehicle for entry of some pretty bad stuff, and we spend pretty much all our time trying to protect businesses around the world.
Gosh, well, we all need that, so and increasingly so, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, Mike Petsalis. So, what is your role there at Vircom?
I am the CEO, president, whatever you like to call it, kind of keep things moving along on a daily basis, make sure everybody's happy and doing the right things.
Okay. What do you think of, Mike, when we talk about corporate culture? What does it mean in your company?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on thinking about this. So it makes me think about really what's best about our company and our people. What makes us distinct and hopefully remarkable? It's about the things that we do or that we try very hard to do and try to do them consistently on a daily basis. It makes me think of stories and examples and of the people involved in those stories. So culture is kind of like just the continuing narrative about the company and its people.
Good. I heard some great things there that we like to talk about a lot. One is that you're using them every day in your business. And secondly, that stories are a big part of culture. Then how would you describe the culture at Vircom?
We are definitely techies to the point of ultra geekiness. Even the salespeople, they understand tech, they care deeply about technology, they use technology. And so they can go toe to toe with the engineers. It's about going the extra mile. That's definitely a common theme. I have to force people to go on vacation and cut off their communications at times. It's like, you can't check email, you can't, it's, there's definitely that. There's extreme teamwork. People care very much about the success of their teammates and obviously the customer. And just problem solving to the nth degree. The attitude of problem solving is, oh, great, another problem. We get to show how brilliant we are kind of thing, instead of, oh, darn, another problem. Ugh, I hate those.
That's awesome. It sounds like you've got some tremendous buy-in and a really great culture there. I know you've defined your culture using core values. What are a couple of those core values?
Yeah, so we got it down to 4, and I think it's important, those aren't the only things we care about. We obviously care about many things, but these are the things we care of kind of above all. These really trump everything. So the number one is, we tried to give them kind of nice names, get it done. It's about accountability. It's about making commitments and delivering, being results oriented. And we actually write this down. No excuses, no bullshit. That's get it done. Find a better way is really about always solving and improving on the status quo, overcoming obstacles and being undaunted by failure or rejection, which happens. Failure happens. Delight your customer is about exceeding your expectations, listening, understanding, and acting, respecting and empathizing. And finally, always keep learning. In tech, I mean, things change so fast. Your head. So we care very much about being enthusiastic, lifelong learners, sharing information, teaching others, respecting the learning curve, and seeking feedback, not being afraid to say, how am I doing? So get it done, find a better way, delight your customer, always keep learning. Those are the anchors for us.
Yeah, those are awesome. You know, I'm a great fan of your core values, Mike. They capture so many of the things that we like to talk about at Culture Czars. First of all, you've got 4. I always think 4 is a great number because people never seem to be able to remember when there's more than 4. You know, it's like they can remember 1 for each finger, but as soon as you bring the thumb in, now, what was that, 5th one? So 4 is a great number. You've made them memorable. And then you've, apart from just a short core value, you've actually gone and put what I call descriptive behaviors or some little, you know, what you explain what those core values mean with some additional wording. But it's short, it's sweet, and it's really, yeah, great job, and it's clearly working for you. What process did you use to arrive at these values, by the way?
Yeah, so I remember reading about a process called Mission to Mars, and we tried to follow the steps described in that. So I might butcher it completely, but basically we were a group, and we kind of chose the people that we felt best represented what is best about the company. Kind of who do we admire in the company? Who do we think is doing awesome things? Who do we want to be like? Who do we want everybody to be like? That kind of stuff. And then once we chose those people, we kind of put the columns down. We said, okay, what is it that makes them special? What is it that we really think is awesome about them? And then we had, you know, a lot of awesomeness down. And then we kind of started comparing, okay, what's common, what's, you know, and starting to group things. And then from there, really, okay, you know, do things belong together, and trying to see patterns. And I'm oversimplifying. I mean, it actually was long, and it didn't all come out in one sitting. It was, you know, fairly deep exercise, but that's what we did.
Yeah, I get it. So what's it called? Mission to Mars?
I had heard that term. Am I misquoting it? Is it Mission to Mars? You're I think much more knowledgeable in this than I am.
Yeah, I believe. I think you're right. Absolutely, and certainly a common practice, and one that we like to use in helping people discern their core values, is definitely looking at your great employees and what values are they representing. And yeah, it doesn't happen on the first sitting. It takes a little while. And definitely it takes, you know, it's worthwhile to put some effort into that. And then, so okay, you went through the process of discerning your core values. You made them public. What would you say in terms of your employees' ability to recall these? Are they, if I stopped them in the hallway, would they all be able to talk about them?
So I'm chuckling as you're asking that question, because I can be annoyingly repetitive about things. And I mean, we make an effort to make sure that the values are commonly used, even the phrases in just daily discourse in the company. So I dare say the employees are very aware. I mean, they're visible on the walls with boards where employees can spontaneously enter stories about teammates as they're happening, and they're exhibiting the values. We bring them up at our monthly all-hands meeting, and we give out goofy awards and statuettes that I've mentioned to you in the past. They come up in daily discourse where employees among themselves, teammates, will say, oh man, that's totally find a better way. Oh man, that's a Scotty who's the metaphor for find a better way. Or sometimes they'll say, ooh, that's a bit get it done and a bit delight your customer. And for me, that's just music to my ears when I hear them used. I mean, I'm always scared a little bit. Is it too goofy? But I do think that helps in the awareness with the staff.
I love it. I love that you have a method for what I call catching people committing a core value, and they can just
Committing a core value.
so, and they can capture that story right away, and then you use it in your monthly meetings. You actually give awards, and it sounds like people are just using them in the everyday business conversation. So I think when that's happening, you know that you've definitely brought your culture alive and it's thriving. And I don't think there's anything goofy about it. I think it makes it fun too. And what's wrong with that? Little fun in the workplace. But on the serious side of things, where does managing culture rank in sort of the priorities for you? Because as CEO of the company, you've got to care about sales and customer relationships, and maybe the health of the business, profits, of course. Where does managing culture fit amongst those strategic priorities?
Yeah, so it's very significant in what I'd call the softer areas, like more the qualitative areas. So I put culture right up there with vision and core purpose in terms of that level of importance, especially when a cultural failure is just catastrophic for a company. You wonder why things are going wrong, why everything's going wrong, and it turns out, man, it's just one thing: it's the culture. So it can have an unbelievable negative impact when it's wrong. So we put it right up there, believe it or not, with the main things, the main kind of qualitative things about the company, which like vision and core purpose.
You bringing these into your your strategic planning annually, quarterly, that sort of thing?
So absolutely. I mean, so it's something we found a way to track. So we basically because it's not just about just managers noticing the behaviors, but it's also about teammates being engaged enough to notice when other teammates are exhibiting core values or being role models. So we actually measure those instances in our weekly management meeting. It's a metric that we know and track, and we track all the stories, who, which value, and everything. So it's an important KPI for us that we track pretty closely. It was hard to think of another one, but just the number of instances. So it's not about the volume, it's just about the number. It's not about the quality of each mention, just the volume.
The fact that
that's what we track.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned that managing the softer side of business. I think some CEOs sort of shy away from that because it gets to talking about feelings, which of course as humans, we're all feeling-based animals. And measuring it.
It's also something, Will, I didn't mention, it's also integrated into our performance management system. So we do we do quarterly performance updates and annual performance reviews. Employees have quarterly objectives, but a significant part of the evaluation is adherence to core values. And adherence is not a subjective thing. It's objective, and it's really about stories. Examples of getting it done, examples of find a better way. And one thing this turns out nice at performance review is when employees have forgotten about things they did, and the manager says, "Hey, there was this one, there was that one." I mean, there is nothing better for developing trust when you're actually saying, "You know what? I was paying attention that time. You were being awesome, and I appreciate it." So,
music to my ears. That absolutely, that trust is also a big part of what comes from having a great culture. And of course, if it's a trusting environment, people feel safer, and they're going to perform better for you. That's so cool that you found at least two ways there of measuring culture. So it's not just a soft, immeasurable. You can actually measure your culture. So that's awesome. Congratulations for that as well. And I know that you've taken your in terms of bringing the core values alive, you've taken them to another level in terms of, I think you used the word metaphor. Tell us about how you used a metaphor and characters and sort of made the words visual and gave like a characterization to your values.
Right. So some of the original technologists of the company are, in the late 40s and maybe even early 50s. And so the original Star Trek show was a major cultural phenomenon for us. And, we're very familiar with those characters. There was the rebirth of the series with the movies. And we were hoping very much that those would take off and capture the imagination of the younger generation. So we chose the characters from the Star Trek series that most exemplified the four values, and it turned out the four key characters actually exemplified those values. Captain Kirk, get it done. Scotty, find a better way. Dr. McCoy, for delight your customer, and Spock, for always keep learning. So, we created the imagery, we created the little statuettes from collectibles of the characters, and that's kind of what we award, and people get to just keep them and display them for a month as we rotate. They get to display them on having, achieved one or two core values, significant stories during the month.
And you said earlier that people will say those names to in a very quickly exemplify a core value.
Absolutely. That was a Spock. Scotty is the favorite. I gotta say, we're a bunch of engineers, so I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, folks will get the Captain Kirk, and it's like, damn, I want the Scotty. But I just honestly, that kind of discourse is good. It's
absolutely.
It means that we've got our own language around them, and that makes.
And again, a picture or an image tells 1,000 words. You found a way for somebody to sort of capture the meaning of words very quickly with an image and a characterization.
Absolutely, and you know what? You wouldn't believe how important the little statuettes are. One all-staff meeting, I mentioned the stories. We kind of applauded, and the people for whom the stories were about. And I forgot to give the statuettes. I got feedback right after, like, "Hey, what happened? You forgot." It's like, I want my statuette. I was like, "What? Oh, damn!" So we're more meticulous about giving them out.
That's awesome. So a small thing actually is that might seem silly to some people is actually a big deal and comes to be very meaningful. And you've achieved that at Vircom.
And if I could just add to that, Will, I've been, it comes up every so often in the management meeting and stuff, should we add some kind of actual prize, gift, monetary, something? And I have honestly resisted that because there's no, you can't quantify the appreciation of your teammates for the special things that you do. And if you attach $50 or $100 or whatever dollars to it, I find it ruins it. So it comes up maybe once a year. Somebody mentions it on the management team. Hey, maybe we should. And I've resisted it. And it's got nothing to do with budget or money. It's got to do with possibly watering down the feeling and the vibe.
Yeah, super. The feeling. Yeah. No, I get that. Monetary might work for some people for awards, but you've created value there around these statuettes, which is great. And I understand that you mentioned how, this was for a certain age group who kind of know what Star Trek is. But I think you're considering maybe modernizing or appealing to a wider group now. Tell us that story.
Yes. So So as I mentioned, that the relaunch of the movie series, the series of new movies and Star Trek has not proven to be to have the longevity of the original series. So the younger generation, of which we're hiring quite a few in the under 30 demographic, it didn't. The metaphor itself, while the values spoke to them, the metaphor did not as much. Also, we had hired a lot of techies from Eastern European countries who were absolutely brilliant technologists and engineers and very serious. And for them as well, they kind of chuckled at the Star Trek metaphor, which they didn't get very well. What is Scotty? Who is Scotty? I don't know who Scotty is. That kind of... So we decided to do a rebirth, refresh of the metaphor, not the values themselves. The values to us are, if not immutable, I'd say fairly concrete and stable. But the metaphor could stand a bit of a refresh, and that's what we're working on to do, find the appropriate refresh.
That's awesome. And I did the same thing, actually, in one of my companies when I first discerned the core values. We used characters to bring them alive. Actually, we had internal designers, Mike, so we created our own characters. So one of them, for example, was clients come first, and it was our value. And the character was Captain Client, and he was a superhero with a cape and a mask and all of that. And a few years later, the design team, came to me and said, "Hey, listen, these guys are looking a little dated now," and they came up with a new sort of fresh, modern look of the same characters. But for sure, we didn't change the words. But there was some appropriate stuff in there too. Actually, we had for our core value of passion and energy, we had a character called Passionista, and she was a rather scantily clad superhero. And this is, we found again a few years later, perhaps we should put some more clothes on Passionista. So the new version of her, was a little more modernized again. But as you say, we did not change the words. Those stay kind of set in stone. But that's awesome. Well, we look forward to learning what the next chapter is going to be. With your permission, I'd definitely like to put the existing ones on the website alongside this interview so people can have that imagery that you described in front of them when they're listening to the video cast. But so look forward to when you get that new iteration. Please forward those to us.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you.
I sort of put you on the spot with this, but you've talked about stories, and I'm wondering if there is one particular story that you could share with us that you remember, that happened and exemplifies, one of the core values.
Geez, there's truly so many, and we have, because we try to notice the little things, because culture is a lot of little things that come together. It's not the massive acts of selflessness and discovery. It's the sum total of the tiny little things. And I'll fall for the recency effect. Just this weekend, our IT manager was already planning to work the weekend to do a major upgrade across a number of servers. And late Friday, the engineering team came to him with a surprise requirement on a completely other project. That would mean that what would be, already a big weekend for him could become a sleepless weekend for him. And so, without saying much, and certainly without any complaint, he just jumped in and did it. And I'm quite I feel kind of split on that, because I'm like, I feel bad for the fact that he did so much and probably got really tired and stuff. But I'm just so impressed with his saying, you know what, I'm going to get that done for the R&D team. Certainly, I hope to reward him with a day or so off during the week for having done that. But that's an example of an absolute get it done. Somebody who just stepped up and said, I'll take care of that, instead of, complaining, which would have been probably entirely justified. And stuff like that happens like all the time. And that was a recent one.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're able to pull one from very recent times. So he's maybe going to get the Scotty statuette this month.
I wrote it down. It's on the board. See the boards here. I always ask for details, so I need to give details. And I gave examples of what I gave. I named the project that he was already working on, the other project that he found extra time to do to make sure that his teammates would show up on Monday morning and have what they needed. So it's already up on the board.
That's fantastic. So you caught him committing a core value. You named it. It's the get it done value, and it's represented by Scotty. So he's in now a nominee for the monthly award. That's just.
Yeah, and it's not a nominee. I mean, he wins. Everybody wins. It's not even a nominee. We've got a lot of statues that we give out. So he's September just started. He's actually the first September get it done. So there's going to be others. We're not shy about giving these out.
I see. So you don't necessarily have to pick a winner from the nominations. If you're nominated, you get it.
We try not to measure these. We try, we don't want to get into debates. Oh, how get it done was that? Was that really get it done? Was that a little bit of get it done? If Will says that Mike got it done, or Mike says that Will found a better way, that's enough for us.
Love it. Okay. That's awesome. Well, thanks a lot for sharing that story. By the way, you mentioned, perhaps you're looking at them now, but do you have these up on the wall in the conference room?
I do. So I'm looking over now. They're actually not in the conference room. They're in a very visible area that people walk by.
Okay.
And so I can send you some pictures of ones that are more full, and
I'd love that.
They're a little bare because it's early in the month, but they get full by the end of the month.
Okay.
So I can absolutely share some of those pictures.
That's awesome. I'll take a follow-up to ask you for that towards the end of the month. So just, as a sort of one of my final questions, Mike, I mean, do you have any advice to people who perhaps have not taken it as far as you have? Why should they bother?
Oh boy, why should they bother? So the advice I'd have is, that's a tough one. The advice I'd have is there's no on-off switch for culture, in the sense that culture is always on and you kind of don't have a choice. It means that what I mean by culture is always on, everything you say, everything you do has to be according to your values and culture. Because if it isn't, let me tell you, it stands out like a sore thumb. It's just incredible. And if all your actions, or as many as you possibly can, are according to your culture and values, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to make tough decisions. Because you're like, wait, this is a tough one. And then you go back and you just kind of put it against the core value grid. And many times it could make a tough decision a little more clear. So if I had some advice, it would be kind of those things. And I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think you're saying too then that as the leader of the company, you have to set that standard for yourself. And you have to be the biggest champion of the values. Absolutely.
And I'm speaking from experience when, I've kind of digressed and gotten it wrong. And let me tell you, the pain of that failure can be significant. And I mean, in terms of, ultimately people getting hurt and, all of us feeling bad about things. So culture is if not done right, it can cause a lot of problems in the company.
Absolutely. Well, at the beginning of this interview, Mike, I think you denied being a culture czar, but I'm going to challenge you there. From everything I've heard, I for sure am going to put that stamp on you as being a culture czar.
Well, I'm grateful for that. I just, we try hard. We hope we're on our way to getting it right, and certainly I'd love to hear from you in the future, about it, others that are doing their best and having success with culture in their companies.
Yeah, I sure will. And of course, the series of interviews are available on my website at www.cultureczars.com. So thank you for the opportunity to give that little plug too, Mike. All right, well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Fantastic. Congratulations on your success at Vircom, not just for the company, but also clearly for what you're doing there with the culture.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Okay, well, have a great rest of the week.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at cultureczars.com, and we'll see you next time.